Rise and shine, it's a brand new day. Can take the stage, ready to play. Weekdays at 10, the cars and the scene. Coffee in hand, they're living the dream. Question in the voice, got the whole town awake. Bringing fire to the mic, make no mistake. Shows in the corner, spitting out facts. Dropping truth bombs, ain't holding back. Can in the morning, feel the heat. From 10 a.m. CST, can take a seat. Live and loud, that break in the mind. Light up your speakers, crank up the sound. They're talking about life upside down. Opinions exploded like a sonic blast. In the studio, they're built to last. With passion and grit, they engage and ignite. Every single week, their foes can't fight. From sports to politics,
This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Ken and Ken in the Morning. Hope you're doing well this morning. We don't have a Ken though. We are Kenless. And we hopefully will have a Joe because we've got news for Joe's team this morning. And hopefully X will work so I can send this show out. I'll come back to that in a second. Good morning, Fred. That Wanka. What's the little commercial last night? YouTube. The William Shatner one was actually kind of funny. Still, the commercials, man. I don't know. Maybe are we holding NFL commercials to too high of a bar? Is that maybe the problem? I don't know. I just have not dug what the Super Bowl commercials have done the last couple of years. It just seems like they hit their heyday a ways back and just have never recovered. So according to X, we're live, but I can't see the video. That is so weird. Yeah, according to X, we're live on X right now, but I can't see the video on X. Let me try it. Oh, there it is. Okay. Well, interesting. There we go. All right, sorry about that. Technical difficulties there. Oh, I tell you, what a morning. So yeah, halftime show, commercials. Yeah, it just hasn't been anything that stuck out. But hey, I wish Joe was here. I hope Joe gets here soon because we've actually got Raiders news this morning. A lot of it. The Raiders, of course, officially announced Clint Kubiak yesterday as their new head coach, and then, of course, the Max Crosby rumors are flying. I guess their Raiders have been reaching out to teams, letting them know he's available. So this Max Crosby getting traded thing has legs. Where's he going to go? What's going to make sense? Also, the Raiders are in the market for wide receivers. Go figure. We've talked about that. A lot of names being thrown away or thrown out there, including Romeo Dobbs. So yeah, there's essentially there also tight end David Njoku says he's not going to return to the Browns. He's leaving the Browns. So we're starting to get some movement. We're starting to get an off season here. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Raiders, though, because if they trade Crosby, is it going to be players or draft picks or a combination? How soon is this going to happen, especially with his injury, or with the surgery from the injury, so he won't be able to pass a physical? So you're asking a team if they're going to trade before the draft to take a huge leap of faith that he's going to be healthy. That might be a bridge too far, to be honest with you, given his age. I mean, he's a great player and all, but the knee recovery, man, that's gotta be tough. You're really, I mean, JMO and a first for Crosby? Yeah. I think you could afford him, especially do some restructure. Oh, here comes Joe. Joe, your team is all over the news this morning, man.
Oh, really? What's going on?
Well, they officially announced Clint Kubiak, so there was that.
Uh,
Then Max Crosby. Teams are being informed of Max Crosby's desire for a trade. So they are now shopping him. Oh, did you?
yeah.
Yep. Oh, but wait, there's more. You guys are all over the news. We see. Oh, the Bengals want to re-sign Joe Flacco. That's
Who's
and of course, Raiders are expecting to go after. Was that Joe?
Who of that? Crosby. Crosby is.
You're breaking up, Joe.
I know. I'm dropping my kids off at school. Now it's always a bad.
All right, let me know when you get clear.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you go.
It's gonna cut in and out until I get all the way home, but I don't know why. But the source, if you're talking about the same article I am, or the same information, the source that was Jason La Canfora, and that dude's not. He's very often wrong. He's wrong more often than he's right.
Yeah, it wasn't the dude. It wasn't Jason La Canfora. It's Nikhil Mehta. Oh wait, that's the other Raiders article. I'm sorry. Let me check the Max Crosby article. No, it was Adam LaRose who wrote that.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
I mean, Max won't say anything publicly, of course, but I mean, here's the thing. I was saying this before you came on. If you're a team with Max Crosby's knee injury, granted he played with the injury for most of the year last year, I get that, but now having the surgery, for any team to give up a significant haul for him, knowing he can't pass a physical right now, is a huge leap of faith that he's going to be healthy. I mean, that's a huge risk because.
Well, he did have the surgery. He had the surgery as soon as.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's still a risk. Having the surgery doesn't mean it's not a risk.
Yeah, well, I mean,
you look at Bakhtiari.
Yeah, it's a risk that players take every year.
Bakhtiari had the surgery and then almost never played again. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Bakhtiari, what was his injury?
Knee injury.
Yeah, but it was like torn ACL plus.
Like Bakhtiari, it was something that I think they had to go back in and clean up because they didn't get all the first time, whatever. But that's what I'm saying, though. Like, just getting the surgery doesn't mean he's going to be good. It's a good sign, though, that yes, he will be good if he comes back. But the coming back part's never a guarantee after a surgery. So I can see why some teams might be hesitant to pull the trigger on a massive deal for Crosby if he can't pass a physical when he gets to the building, which he can't right now. So it is a leap of faith. You have to take a leap of faith that he's going to be okay.
I'm not going to disagree with you, but I think I think Crosby has shown that he's worth the risk, and I don't think it's as big of a risk as I don't think it's that big of a risk. There is a
I,
risk, but
yeah, I mean, I'm
his
totally
injury is not. It's not the same severity as Bakhtiari's injury was.
right. But I was just using Bakhtiari as an example of a guy who supposedly was going to be fixed after surgery and wasn't. I'm just
Yeah,
saying, and I agree with you that there is a risk there. I think a couple risk averse GMs will be out just because of that. If you're a GM that's on the hot seat, you might not get into that because there is that extra risk that you might not want to take, especially when you got like Khalil Mack is going to be out there injury free, right? And some other guys. I mean, it depends on what the asking price is. And I'm wondering how much the asking price is affected by the fact that he just had the surgery, can't pass a physical, and you're having to basically say, look, you know, he'll be okay by camp. Okay. I mean, I wonder how much that'll affect the price.
I don't think it. I mean, I think in an ideal world it should, but I don't think it will because I don't think the Raiders actually want to get rid of him to begin with, and so they're looking at it as we're not like actively out here trying to sell him. If you want to buy him, obviously there's a price for anybody, but
Yeah, but
you know,
that's a huge change for the Raiders from a year ago, right? I mean, it is
how
kind of a
so?
change because it was like, well, he's never going to leave, and now it's like, well, now we're letting you know he's available.
Well,
When
if
teams
they're
let when
actually
teams let look at when teams let you know that someone's available, that's akin to them shopping him, right? And when they come out, if I called you up and say, "Hey, by the way, my Bo Jackson helmet's available for trade," that's me trying to get you to trade for it.
right, but I don't know if I trust the source of these articles because Jason La Canfora just the other day, like or yesterday, it might have even been yesterday, came out and said that Max Crosby directly told Tom Brady that he would rather retire than play for the
I
Raiders
saw that
again.
quote. I
And
saw that quote, and I
it's
don't
like,
know if
come on,
no,
dude, it's
yeah,
sensationalism. Does
this
Max
is
want to trade? I don't know. Maybe I'm not saying that
I
he
agree.
doesn't.
I mean,
It's
I can
like, but
agree. Like,
I want to hear it
there's
from
some
Max's mouth.
Well, I don't think Max is ever going to say anything publicly right now. He's just going to let his agent and the teams do their thing. But I mean, look, and I agree with you. It is bombastic. It is a little over the top. I don't know how if I believe the veracity of that comment. But if the Raiders are in fact calling people, say, "Hey, Max is available," dude, that's a massive seismic shift. And I'm wondering how much the injury affects how much he goes for. And I think it does. And look, it's not to say the Raiders won't get a haul. I still think they'll get a very good haul. But for instance, if it would have been 2 first rounders, a second, and a fifth rounder to get him, now maybe it's a first, a second, and a fifth. Like there's a cost. There's good. Look, you can't say it's not going to cost in value because it is. Because right now, the player cannot pass a physical. So for
But
some teams,
but
that's
the
a
Raiders aren't.
non-starter.
But the Raiders are not in any. They're not under any timeline to trade him. Like they can let him sit there and rehab and do whatever they want. The Raiders don't
Well,
have to trade him.
yeah, as far as we know, correct. But also, they are in a timeline hack if they want to get this done before the draft. They have
Yeah, but
they have a smallish window, and then the other thing that's going to impact them is free agency. So let's say the Bears are one of the teams that is kind of in that short group, just for sake of argument. And you get into free agency, and you haven't done a deal yet, and they get Khalil Mack because Khalil says, "Hey guys, let's run it back. I'm gonna give you a sweetheart deal. Let's run it back. Let me and Montez Sweat do our thing together, and I'm gonna give you a sweetheart deal and come back on a team friendly 2-year deal." Right? Khalil Mack can still play. Well, the Raiders just lost that opportunity. So they do have a clock they're on. They have a clock of free agency and the draft that they're up against if they want to get it done to impact their team for this season. If you
I
wait
don't.
till after the draft, then you're looking at draft picks for 27, probably.
which isn't it isn't the worst thing in the world. Like
No.
the thing is, it's like it's more like if I have a nice like 1969 Chevelle Super Sport out in my driveway that I'm sitting there like washing it, right? And you come by and you say, "Man, that's a really nice car. Would you be interested in selling it?" And I'm like, I mean, I love this car, but if the price was right, anybody has to consider it, right?
No, Joe, I
Like,
agree with that scenario.
I'm not gonna let it go for you
But-
know, if you're like, hey, I'll give you 10 grand, I'm like, yeah, thanks for
So,
the
Joe,
offer,
I
but no
agree.
thanks.
I agree with that scenario. However, that's not the scenario because now I'm walking past your car and you're going, "Hey, it's available." That's what the Raiders are doing. Hey, this Ferrari, it's
But-
available.
But has that been confirmed by more than one independent source? And how reliable are those sources? Because you might, but I wouldn't. All I'm saying is I wouldn't stand too firmly on these because
No,
we're
but
in
we got to take it for what it is, Joe. I mean, and if that is-
take it as
if- Joe, look,
a
we
single
can't just
piece
say,
of
"Oh, well,
information.
I don't like Jason La Confornia, so this isn't going to happen." Let's just look at let's just walk. It's the off season. We got a long off season. Let's walk the dog
Right.
on it. If what he's saying
Absolutely,
is true,
I'm willing to walk the dog. But
if,
what I'm
yeah,
saying,
if what they're saying is true, if in that report, then look, they kind of do have a little bit of a clock, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. Your analogy is a good analogy, except if they're saying, "Hey, the car is available," it changes the analogy.
yeah,
And I'm not saying you're wrong in terms of like, look, it also depends on how quickly they want to move and start start bringing in new people. So if they want to get the picks for now, this year, right? Then they're on a time clock.
yeah,
If they don't care about waiting an extra year, which I agree with you would be more beneficial in terms of the compensation. Like, okay, we don't care about this year's draft. We'll wait and we'll let him show that he's going to be okay. And now I can add extra draft picks in this deal. And it's more beneficial for me from a business standpoint in the long term. I agree with you 1000%. The question is are they going to be willing to wait that extra year to cash in, so to speak, on the haul? Or do they want to be able to add right now with Mendoza other pieces right off the rip? Those are the questions you and I can't answer because, well, we're not in that boardroom and we don't know, what that feel is. Or is Kubiak going to be like, dude, because now he's entered Kubiak into the conversation. And if he's like, look, if we're going to do it now because I want the draft picks now, that changes it. If he's like, hey, take your time, we can wait a year, but remember though, with whatever happens this year, there's that little asterisk, right? You took Max away and didn't give me anyone to replace him this year. I mean, who knows how they're going to roll? But if this report's even true 50%, my question is, how does this affect what they're going to get in compensation? Because the dude can't pass the physical right now. I'm not disagreeing with anything you've said about, he should be good, he should be fine. But dude, I think it still affects the final price because he's not healthy right now.
well, see, all right. So can I walk the dog now?
It could
I'm gonna-
also be, let me add one more thing though, Joe. This will
Mhm.
actually support you. It could be where the Raiders put in contingencies where they'll eat some of the contract, maybe say, okay, fine, give us this, but we'll eat more of his contract. I mean, there's other things they could do, but go ahead.
So, from the Raiders' perspective, and of course, I don't speak for them officially because I'm not in the office, but I think the Raiders learned a lesson from the Derek Carr situation where they got absolutely nothing for him. I think Max is already on a sweetheart deal for any team. He's a top 5 pass rusher that's making $30 million compared to Micah Parsons' $45 million. So I don't think they're going to be eating any of that contract. It's already a sweetheart deal, and he's already signed for another 3 years at least under contract.
I'm bringing it up right now, Joe.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's signed, I think, for at least another 3 years under contract. So
No.
I don't think the Raiders are going to be eating contract.
Okay.
I don't think that.
Actually,
I don't think. Go ahead.
let me throw this in here, Joe, for you to help you out here. His contract, he signed it in 22 as a 4-year deal. 2026 is the last year of it. Is 1 year left. For 26, his base salary is 30 mil. His cap number is 35.7 mil. 27, 28, 29, there's nothing guaranteed. If you cut him, don't resign him, whatever. There's literally no dead money. So yeah.
Yeah. There's no guaranteed.
They added 3 void years. So you've got 3 void years of 27, 28, 29, where the team really doesn't have to, they can just cut him.
But they can also keep him, and he's under contract with a specific salary. It's just not
29
guaranteed money.
The base salary for 27 would be 29. For 28, it'd be 26.5, and for 29, 27.4. At all 3 places, if a team decided to cut them, there'd be 0 dead cap, and it'd be all cap savings.
So that's a very attractive contract to try to trade, because you are getting a top 5 pass rusher on a sweetheart deal with the option to cut him at any point with no dead money. That's unheard of.
I agree with that. That part is attractive, but I mean, I think,
and here's the biggest part. I don't think the Raiders actually want to trade Max Crosby. I don't believe that they're actively shopping him. I think this is clickbait season, and it's the same thing we've been seeing for the last 4 or 5 years now. The media wants Max Crosby out of Las Vegas so badly they can taste it.
I mean, no, but look at I don't like with as mad as
I will say that there's more smoke this year than there has been in other years. There's more smoke. I'm not oblivious to the fact, right?
And I'm just wondering, Joe, like, how the scenario works out, because given the fact that, okay, you want to, like, now all of a sudden you want to trade him this year when after he's had his surgery, and that makes it objectively a little bit harder in terms of getting the deal you want for him. Like, everything you said about his contract's true. That is attractive. But once again, though, the big problem that a team will have is like, look, the dude can't pass a physical right now, and you want me to give up the farm for a guy who today can't pass the physical on the hope that he can later. So if, let's say, for some weird reason, right, he ends up not being able to pass a physical by the beginning of the year and has to go in the pup for 6 or 8 weeks, however long that is. Like, that's a big risk. Or if he has to start the year on the IR, that could be a big risk for some of these GMs that they're not willing to take.
And I'm not disagreeing with that.
Like, look, do you think the Packers trade for Micah Parsons what they gave the Cowboys if Micah Parsons came in with a torn ACL and was going to miss time? No, they wouldn't give up that much for him because he's damaged goods. So
but on the other side of that argument, Ken, look what happened to Micah Parsons. They gave up the farm, and he still got injured. So injuries happen.
But that's fine. That's acceptable because look at the time of trade, Micah Parsons didn't have the torn ACL. If he gets injured after the fact, that's kind of part of doing business. But now he's injured coming in and can't pass the physical. Dude, it has to affect the price some. It has to. I don't know how much.
In an ideal world, in an ideal world, you're right. But I just don't. I don't think the Raiders are in any sort of a rush to trade him, and I don't necessarily believe that he told Tom Brady that he'll never play for the Raiders again, and he'd rather retire.
I wish we could get clarification on that, but Joe, just like for sake of argument, though, if let's say they do want to trade him now, given all this, let's say this is true, then they are against the timeline, so to speak, if they want to have the compensation for this next season, right? Yeah, I like Fred. Well, Fred say, "Hey, look, at Detroit will take him because give us you're tired, you're poor, and you're broken." Right? We'll trade for. We do that all the time. But I mean,
you know what? They could put a statue up in Detroit and call it the Statue of Injury.
Yeah, but you have to admit though, there might be a couple GMs who are kind of like maybe worried about being on the hot seat that won't pull the trigger because of the risk. And then other GMs, like right now, if you're Ryan Poles, you can afford to take a swing like this. Ryan Poles, you can afford to do it and get away with it, right? I mean, but if
I
you're
don't
the
think the Raiders
GM,
are in a hurry to trade him. And honestly, if I'm the Raiders, if the reports are true and he said he would rather retire, I say fuck it, go ahead and retire, dude. I would call his bluff. Like, you want to retire? Retire, dude. Like,
I
because
mean,
I just want to let me make a couple points here. Number one, the Raiders have always done right by Max Crosby. They've always took care of him. They've always given him what he wanted. They even hired a head coach on his insistence. Like, they hired AP as a head coach because he said there was the threat that he might consider a trade if they didn't. They went with what he wanted. It was a disaster, and then they let it. So now all of a sudden, Max, when the Raiders are on the verge of getting their number one quarterback that they've needed for years, like, they're finally on the verge of turning things around. They got arguably one of the top head coaches. I wouldn't say arguably one of, but like one of the most sought after coaches in the whole coaching cycle. And now you want to trade. Like, to me, I would say fuck it, go ahead and retire, dude. Like, thanks for your time. You'll go down, as one of the great Raiders of all time, and enjoy your post football career.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but at the same, I'll play a little devil's advocate there. Though, if they want to get the best they can get for them, they're going to want to. There's two factors. One, do they care about getting trade compensation for this year? Two, what kind? And that goes actually, it's all the same. What kind of rush are they in? If they're not in a rush, I agree with you, Joe. If they're like, you know what, we don't need to get draft picks this year. Like, we could just trade them at some other point in the offseason when we can get more of what we want, and we don't care about using the draft picks this year. That's one trade. But if they really want to get the stuff in the house now, I think there are a couple teams that are going to be out. And that's not to say they won't still fetch a good price for Max, a price that would make Raiders fans still happy, and the team trading for him say, yeah, it's worth the risk. But I mean, I think there would be some GMs right now, as it stands today, if the trade had to be done before the draft, that would just be out because they don't have the capital in terms of keeping their job should it not work out the way we expect it to take the risk. But then there's some GMs who can take the risk and have a lot more leeway to take the risk. Like, if you're Ryan Poles, you've got a long leash right now, right? You could make that move and probably get away with it if it doesn't pan out. But as Isaac comes in, if you're a Gutekunst, you can't take that swing, and if it misses, have a job.
So those rumors are true that Max asked to be traded, or no?
Well, Joe doesn't like the source in California, and I don't blame him because he's not the best source. It'd be nice if we had that confirmed by someone else.
Yeah.
I mean, guy works for CBS Sports. He gets paid for this. Is it just clickbait? Is he being bombastic? So we looked at it from two different angles. One, let's look at like what he said is true. The other is like, well, let's just say he's over sensationalizing it, and the Raiders are in fact saying, hey, he's available, right? And then you get the questions of, and then I said, yeah, but he can't pass a physical, so I think some teams would just be out because it'd be too much of a risk to give up the farm for a guy who can't pass the physical today, even though we all assume he'll be okay. For some GMs, that's still too much of a risk. For other GMs, it won't. But at the end of the day, the injury, being that he's injured right now, could affect the sale price.
Yeah,
but I'll say this real quick. This seems to me like a campaign to try to basically condition Raiders fans to sort of like, well, just take what you can get and be happy with it. And I don't think it's going to work because
I don't think that at all.
If the Raiders were going to trade Max for if the Raiders trade Max for a first and a second, let's say, Raider fans are not going to be happy with that at all. They know that he's worth more than that. and they're not going to be happy. Whereas some people might say, no, that's a fair price. Like the Raider fans aren't going to feel that way.
Yeah, but you know what though? They
Yeah.
won't be happy until the number one pick comes up, and all of a sudden they're all happy because they got their quarterback. You know, I mean, people have the memory of a goldfish. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like they'll be unhappy for a couple days, and then the number one pick comes there with holding the number one pick jersey, and then whoever else they get in the first round shows up, and all of a sudden, look at our brand new number one first round draft
Well,
picks. And
Actually,
then they're
Ken,
happy.
just for clarification, I mean, I'm in Raiders sub, and they're still talking about the Mac trade in
Dude,
a negative light. They're still
you're talking
saying
about that's
Huh.
10% at best of the fan base.
they're
The
still
overwhelming
saying.
majority of the fan base isn't that deep to be in the subreddit.
Well, they're okay, but the ones that are saying like, haven't we learned our lesson when we traded Mac? Like, yeah, we got a good price for him, but they fucked up the draft picks. And what is the lesson there? You don't trade you don't trade premier pass rushers in their prime.
know.
You just don't do it.
But I mean,
Here's-
look, I get it. I mean, and look, as a fan of my team, we've made moves and not made moves that have made me mad throughout history. I mean, what else is new in the NFL, man? Like we all over evaluate. I'm sorry, and Isaac, give me this. And I'll let you
good.
go. We all over evaluate the worth of our players to a certain degree because there are players. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, there's a little bit of that too, Joe. You have to admit for some of the fans who are going to say, "Oh, he's worth all this," when the reality, they're
Sure.
probably
There are
not,
fans,
so-
there are delusional fans who are like, I want 4 firsts, right? There are delusional fans. But even Jay Glazer in his report when he went on that show and he said, yeah, Max is done in Las Vegas, they asked him, well, what's the package? And he said, Micah is the bare minimum. Micah Dale is the bare minimum. Jay Glazer said
You're
that.
right. Go ahead, Isaac.
Personally, what I think, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think the Raiders have intention to trade him. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, they're about to start a whole new regime with the Raiders, you know, selecting Fernando Mendoza. And if I were the Raiders too, I mean, you brought up a good point, Ken, about the physical too. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to be able to yield. You know, even though Max Crosby is a hell of a dominant defensive player, probably one of the best in the league, you know, you still will get a substantially lower yield because of this injury. You know what I mean? But at the same time, if I were the Raiders, you know, and I don't think they have plans to trade him, is I would have him stay for another year and to see how it goes, you know, with this new quarterback and new, you know, things that they're bringing in. Clint Kubiak is actually pretty genius guy on the offensive side of the ball. We've seen it with many different teams now. So we'll see how that runs. And if it's still not working, then I can see a scenario where you consider trading Max. But at the current state, no.
It's interesting on a lot of different levels. I mean, Max is not 25 anymore; he's 29, so he's
Yeah.
kind of getting up there in the age bracket. But then guys like Khalil Mack show that you can be 35 and still be dominant. So you know that's a plus for Max. You know, but there's a lot. You know, but then you look at what happened with brain farting, our favorite Trey Hendrickson. You look what happened to Trey Hendrickson at 30.
Yeah.
And like he went from being the most dominant guy in the NFL to almost forgotten this year because of injury, and concerns with the age. So, I mean, there's all these different factors, and it's hard to take our feelings out of it because there is an emotional piece to it as well. I get it. I get that. I think at the end of the day, I think there'll be a couple GMs who are going to be out because he had surgery, can't pass a physical. I'm not going to give you 2 firsts and a 5th. And a player for a guy who can't pass a physical. And that's just going to be the bottom line. They don't care who it is, right?
And that's fine.
They don't have the leash to have something go wrong with that. Then you've got some GMs like Brad Holmes who just doesn't care, or Ryan Poles who has a longer leash, or a Harbaugh who has a longer leash with, you know, the guy who's the GM for the Chargers and with Harbaugh going, yes, get him. Has a little bit of a leash. You got some GMs with a leash or have a little bit more room to take the risk, right? Because maybe their teams are already more complete, or maybe they're they're at that position where I can make that and go, and they'll be in. But I think there are a couple of GMs who will shy away just for the fact that he can't pass a physical right now, and there's no guarantee.
Yeah, I
I
can see
mean,
Joe's side of it too. Like
oh,
Joe
so can
said,
I,
yeah,
100%.
yeah. Joe's side of it is, it's got to be more than what the compensation is, which is correct. Because if you look at his plethora of work and his career so far, Max Crosby, he's not he hasn't ever been a descending player. He's always been an ascending player.
Well, and here's the other
And
question,
despite,
though, that Fred kind of brings up, and there's an inverse to it. Like, they're like, well, if you sell now, you get all these pieces for the rebuild. But dude, we've seen teams that can rebuild within 2 years. So it's not
Yeah.
like it's not like if you think Max Crosby is out of the league in 2 years, like you keeping Max is part of that rebuild as well. You
yeah,
go 180 degrees the opposite. Say no, look, you keep him. You get Mendoza, and then if you
Mhm.
go out in free agency, dude, you got free agents this year who are out there. You've got wide receivers, that you can
Mhm.
get that are going to help your team. And let me get down to this list here. So some of the receivers that are available, Pickens,
Pickman?
he has to be re-signed.
Yep.
Alec Pierce, Romeo Dobbs, Rashid Shaheed, Juan Jennings, Debo Samuel, Wandale Robinson. I mean,
And
those are
you could possibly trade for AJ Brown. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Get him on the
well,
Raiders. Yeah.
yeah, but it depends on what you'd have to give up for that. If you could, I think with the Raiders having all the money they have, would rather use their draft picks and then sign because they don't want to trade in the draft capital as part of the rebuild. They'd rather spend the money on the rebuild than
Yeah.
probably give up the draft capital for AJ Brown because he costs at least a first, or at least first and some seconds or a lot of second. They'd rather keep those draft picks because those are blue chip players that they're going
Yeah.
to get. So I
I'll
mean, the
I'll
Raiders
take
have a
a
lot of different
second.
ways they can maneuver this. Like, and it
Mhm.
also depends on where they value the current talent on the roster, because as we know, the three of us may value player X as trash, and they may say, no, this guy is going to be something special this year.
Mhm.
I mean, so
If
there's
I'm
that. We don't know how they
yeah.
evaluate what they currently have.
If I'm Clint Kubiak going in, I'm grabbing my GM by the collar. Do not fucking trade Max. You know what I mean? I just got on the team. We're trading our best player out of the fucking team as soon as I
Mhm.
get here. That's not happening under my watch,
Yeah.
I mean,
And
if you keep Max, and let's say you get Mendoza, obviously, and then you still got the rest of your draft. You're gonna have a good second round pick. Maybe you could get a good receiver or a good offensive lineman with that first pick in the second round, right? And then let's say you sign Romeo Dobbs to a decent contract to be your 2, right? And because maybe you draft a wide receiver like a Luther Burn the third type of guy with your first pick in the second round, which is going to be basically almost like getting a first rounder, right? You're so close to the first round.
Mhm.
Maybe you do that and you get like a Romeo Dobbs, and oh, by the you've got a good tight end, you've got a good running back. Maybe you take some of that money and sign some offensive line, and next thing you know, your holes aren't nearly as bad, and you're a team that might be able to compete in that division.
And there's one more variable, which is like I said, the Raiders, like we're not in a vacuum where the past doesn't matter. Like the Raiders have always taken care of Max Crosby. They've always done right by him. So if he really is pushing this hard, like if he really did go to Tom Brady and say, I'm not ever playing for the Raiders again, I'd rather retire. If I'm the Raiders, I play hardball. I call his bluff and I say, okay, well, here's how it's going to go, Max. You can either sit this year out or you can play this year for us and see with Clint Kubiak. Next year, if you still want out, we'll talk. But for this year, you're either going to be a Raider or you're going to be retired.
I
Straight
mean,
up.
And
there'll
then,
be options.
actually, that's a good scenario because I could just Brady can play the trump card too. He can be like, "Hey, remember Le'Veon Bell? He tried to do the same nonsense, and
Yep.
look at him, he's out of the
Yeah,
league."
well,
You
Le'Veon
know what I
Bell
mean?
though was a contract dispute. He wanted the money. That's not what Max is upset about. I think. Look, if they're going to trade him, I think it's going to happen before the draft. I
Well,
honestly
what I'm
think.
saying was the sit out a year type of thing.
Yeah,
The
I
sit
but I
out.
don't think. Yeah, if Max sits out, look, if Max sits out a year, they can just straight cut him, right? He loses a ton of money, but they call his bluff. I get with all that. I'm saying that's fine, but I mean, if they're going to trade him, I think it's going to happen before the draft. I think they just want to get the pieces now. If the draft comes and goes, they don't trade him. I think the odds of him getting traded, kind of like Myles Garrett last year and Trey Hendrickson, goes down further and further and further and further. Next thing you know, he's suiting up for the season.
Mhm.
You know, it depends on the veracity of that report, how
Mhm.
true it is. And look, if we don't hear another peep out of Max, or we don't hear anything out of Tom Brady, for example, on this between now and the draft, then there's probably the smoke dies down some. But I
Yeah.
mean, if it's true, it's not the best case scenario for the Raiders in terms of what you're going to get, because there are a couple teams now who are going to be out because they don't want to take the risk. And it's not to say there's not going to be a huge market for them. I think there would be, even with the risk. And I think there are GMs who would be willing to pay for their risk because of the potential upside. But if you wait too long, you lose customers, because Khalil Mack goes to one of your customers, and now they're not going to be a customer because Khalil Mack's going to do what they need them to do, or TJ Watt becomes available, or other guys become available, or
Yeah,
teams just say, you know what, I'm just going to take my luck in the draft. I
there's
mean,
two scenarios I see.
there's a
Is like,
lot of scenarios.
yeah, like two scenarios though the Raiders have to play here. Is the first one is if they trade Max Crosby, their intention is to build around Mendoza, right?
Yeah,
Get him offensive line, get him, you know what I mean, with the draft picks, get him, some help on that side of the
weapons,
ball,
right?
yeah, weapons, all types of things. The second scenario is Max Crosby's in the cards, and we're just trying to add on top of the roster.
Right.
Not, you know what I mean? It's so that's
And
the
it's
two
good money.
scenarios I think they're playing in their head, you
Like,
know?
the
And
Raiders have
a
a
report,
shitload of money.
yeah, and the
Mhm.
report just came out yesterday that the Raiders are the heavy favorites to land Jim Schwartz as their defensive coordinator. They're even floating compensation because he's under contract with the Browns. They're saying that it's pretty much going to look like the Raiders are going to send a 4th-round pick to the Cleveland Browns for them to release the rights to his contract, and the Raiders are going to get Jim Schwartz as their DC. I think that also plays into the Max category because Max has never had a defensive coordinator the likes of Jim Schwartz. Like, Jim Schwartz consistently has top 5 defenses. He's going to make Max. He's going to turn Max from a 10 sack a year guy to a 15 sack a year guy. Like,
Yeah, that would be a good move.
and so I think,
I mean,
I think
look,
the
they've
Raiders.
got
I think the Raiders are playing a wait and see approach
the
right now.
Raiders
I
right
think
now. The Raiders have $91.5 million in cap space right now. That's with Geno Smith. They cut Geno Smith. They take the $18 million. Well, they'll designate him as post June. No, it won't change. If they cut Geno Smith, even if they cut him, right, they're basically at $100 million right now. Because you can cut Geno to have a backup quarterback for a lot less money than 26.5. You could take that $8 million in savings and and spend half of that on a backup quarterback and still net $4 million in positive for this year, right? Which would then put them at almost $96 million before we get the $20 to $30 million bump. Dude, they can spend money. They could
Yeah.
go out and get the best offensive lineman available in free agency and a receiver.
which is
And
my
keep Max Crosby.
first order of business is I'm calling up Tyler Linderbaum and I'm backing the Brinks truck up, dude. Like, what's it going to
Mhm.
take? You want a market contract? No problem, dude. We'll reset the market for you. 20 million a year, 4 years, no problem, dude. Here
The
you
other
go.
thing
Here's your
is,
contract.
like, yes, O line a must, right? You got a rookie quarterback coming in, and Clint will definitely coach him up. But defensive side of the ball, Max needs a lot of help. So there's a lot of issues going on there. So I think a lot of the money has to be spent on defense. Put a unit around Max, and that Raider team will become dangerous.
Actually, so I don't disagree with you, Isaac. The defense
Yeah.
definitely needs players, but I'll say this. If the Raiders can go ahead and solidify the offensive line maybe go out and get a receiver either in the draft or in free agency, like a decent receiver, the defense is going to be better automatically because the offense isn't going to be going 3 and out. Gino's not throwing 3 or 4 picks a game. Like the offense is going to be actually able to sustain drives, and the defense, as bad as the defense was last year, part of the reason they were that bad is because they were playing 45 minutes a game, dude. Like,
Well,
so
the other thing is you got genius coaches in your division, and you got offensive weapons against you in that division. You know what I mean? Even though Mahomes is hurt, the Chiefs still run like a crazy unit. You know what I mean? And Herbert, we all know he's not really good in the postseason, but during the season is where he shines. And then Bo Nix is expected to be back healthy. And Sean Payton knows how to run the offense. So I think, obviously, if your offense is better, your defense is not on the field more. But I think defense side of the ball, Raiders need help there. And Max
absolutely,
needs some
and
pieces.
I agreed with you. I do, but I don't think you can address all these holes in one draft and one offseason.
no.
So I think this season the name of the game is you put as much around Mendoza as you can, and you fix that offense. And then next season you go into it with an established offense and you start addressing that defense.
So just the market for him. Here's some guys who are going to be free agents: Trey Hendrickson, Khalil Mack, Hassan Reddick, Joey Bosa, Leonard Floyd. All older, all still effective. Von Miller not as effective, but I don't know, is he going to play again? There are some guys out there. So the Max Crosby market is there, but there are other options. In terms of keeping Max Crosby, dude, you got over $100 million. There are some really good offensive linemen out there to protect your quarterback. And there are some decent wide receivers that are going to be available, like Romeo Doubs. Like Romeo Doubs might not be the big flashy guy you want, but he could be the guy you need in Vegas. Right? So if the Raiders draft a kid and then get Dobbs, and they've already got a really good tight end, they got apparently have a good running back. We'll see how year 2 is for Genty. And they get an offensive line. That offense is good. And defensively, dude, they still got some other good players like Jeremy Chin and whatnot. I mean, you're talking, there's some other guys in free agency that they can pick up that are going to plus them up a bit and make them better. And when you talk about the rest of that division, Kansas City's declining. They are, unless they pull money out of somewhere and do some signings. Bo Nix, yeah, he's going to be back, but when? So you're going to get a good shot at them being dethroned. I mean, that division, for as good as Bo Nix in Denver's been, Bo Nix is going to be out for a bit, most likely. And then, of course, you got the Chargers, who really, if not for some offensive line injuries last year, they're a pretty damn good team. So the Raiders are in play, can be in play. It depends on how they want to crack the nut and what approach they take it.
And here's another approach too. What if the Raiders don't trade Max Crosby and they use some of that free agent money and they call Khalil Mack and say, hey, why don't you come be the bookend to Max Crosby? And with this offense that we're building here and Jim Schwartz as our DC, we got something cooking here.
I was about to bring that up. Bring Mack back.
It depends. I think with Mack, that'd depend on whether or not they fix the O-line first. Like if you can't do anything with the O-line, then yeah, maybe you spend the money on Mack. Or if you fix the O-line or got the pieces you want for the O-line, and then you got the money for Mack, you do that. I mean, that's almost like putting the cart before the horse there. If you went and signed Mack right off the rip, like you want to take care of that line a little bit first and protect your young quarterback.
And there's a big opportunity too. Oh, go ahead.
Let me just throw this out there. Like the Raiders don't need a whole new offensive line. Like they have Colton Miller, they have Jackson Powers Johnson. Those are both guys that can start. Caleb Rogers, the guy who was a rookie last year, he played well at the end of the season. So they could slot him in at the other guard. What they really need is a center and a right tackle right now. So if they back the Brinks truck up, For Linderbaum, you're looking at 20 million a season for 4 seasons. That's what the insiders are projecting, right?
Right.
That's a market setting contract. So we have what, 91 million right now? That takes us down to 71. Jermaine
Well, let's call it
Illuminor,
91. He eats up the 20 mil that the NFL is going to give you. So you
okay,
still have 91, and you got to do
91. Then
a
Jermaine
guard.
Illuminor is a free agent as well, and he's a former Raider. We could bring Jermaine Illuminor back for a less than $20 million a year contract. So we even if you gave him 15, let's say, right? So
Right.
or even if you had to
Now,
give
how
him
much
20,
Dobbs
let's say,
gonna cost?
you're still down to 71. You
So
can
let's
still
just say you
afford
guys
Khalil
get
Mack.
Romeo Dobbs because
There's a big fish, actually, that's an unrestricted free agent. And I think the Eagles bring him back. But if they don't, Raiders need to jump all over this. Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips is an unrestricted free agent coming into this offseason. And he's shown as soon as the Eagles got him, he had what, like in 4 games, he had like 3 sacks. He had a forced fumble. He almost had an interception. He would be a great complementary piece next to Max
Trayvon
Crosby.
Diggs is going to be available too. Um,
I'd
as a
stay away
corner.
from. Oh yeah, he's you know what, like
He's
he's
better than what
okay.
we have on the roster right now. So I'd be willing. I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to give him a big contract, but
Jay Gardner
Yeah.
Johnson's going to be out there. I mean, there's some pieces. Look,
Yeah.
that's the thing with this whole thing with this Max Crosby is we're talking. There's a lot of different ways they can kind of like get this team right back in it. Because look at their division. I don't want to say it's not like it's someone's division right now.
Uh-huh.
Because Denver, dude, like how long is Bo Nix going to be out?
Not sure how long. I know Mahomes is going to be out maybe till like week 6, probably, or something like that. He's going to be out for a
Yeah.
while. Yeah.
there's that, and then
Um,
there's also the fact that Denver won a lot of one-score games this year, dude. Like,
Yeah.
and generally you see a regression to the mean. So I don't expect Denver to win 13 games next year. Like,
No. But they are pretty well coached. Like Denver is
I'm not
mostly
taking nothing from them.
easy
They're a team
defense.
that's
Yeah.
on the rise. They're an ascending team for sure. But I
Yeah.
just don't. I think the regression to the mean takes a couple of wins off, dude. So I'm looking at them as more of like a 10-win team than a 13-win team.
Oh yeah. The schedule will get tougher, you know. But like,
all right,
yeah, there's a lot.
well,
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
so there's a 3-month recovery for the ankle injury. So he might be back by camp.
Yeah, it could be a possibility.
They're saying he's probably going to be ready. Now, of course, him timing out his coach probably didn't help, but that'll be forgotten by camp. So he could be back by camp. So okay, so the Denver might be the team, but still, I think the Raiders are in a pretty good position. It's just interesting with this Max Crosby stuff. We'll see how much more smoke happens. I think really, obviously, we're going to know something by April. We're going to know something by the draft. I think if they don't trade him by the draft, they don't trade him. I think if you're going to trade him by the draft, there are some teams that are automatically going to be out because they're going to just say, we don't care who it is. If you can't pass the physical, we're not trading. God. There are going to be some teams who are going to be willing to take the risk. The question would be is how much should the Raiders hurt themselves in terms of compensation by trading him before he can pass the physical? I think they're and look at the cost may not be in terms like instead of getting the 2 firsts and a second, maybe it's 2 firsts and a third, right? It might not be significant, but I think there is a factor there that will cost them a little bit. Maybe not a lot, but a little. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Then it's interesting to see how much of that article that was published is true. And if someone else, if Brady comes out and says, "Yeah, man, he doesn't want to be here anymore," well, okay, that's going to add to it. Now, in lieu of that, this is all we've got. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays forward. The Raiders, man, they have a lot of money. They have a lot of flexibility. They have some pieces already. It's not like they're not without talent. They have some good talent on this roster. Some of it's just been underperforming because of coaching. But now you've got your coach, and it looks like you might have your defensive coordinator go with your offensive-minded head coach. They could be in that Goldilocks zone like the Bears kind of were this year to a certain degree. It'll be
Joe. Hey, Joe, by the way, I thought of you the other day because I was listening to the radio, and they mentioned the jock tax. So this is what they said. Sam Darnold, right? You know, they get a bonus off of, you know, winning the Super Bowl, right? And he made 178,000, you know, being as an incentive to winning the Super Bowl. He has to pay a jock tax for playing 7 games or being 7 days playing in California. He has to pay 294,000. So that 178,000 is basically nothing, and you have to pay more on top of it to California to play in
Who?
there. What's called? I forgot what analysis hopped on the radio station and
No, I'm
brought that
saying
up.
who had to pay that?
Oh, my bad. Sam Darnold. So Sam Darnold has to pay, you know, he got 178,000 winning the Super Bowl, but he has to pay 294,000 in jock tax. So that
And then that's
178,000.
not even all. Then he has to pay taxes on the 178,000 too, because bonuses
Yeah.
are taxed. So
Man, so that
Hey,
jock tax comes in.
in other news, which will be quick hits, then we'll talk about more tomorrow, and some of this won't be a surprise. The Dolphins are hoping to trade Tua.
Mm.
Of course, his contract's going to get in the way.
yeah, in
I
other news, I'm hoping Scarlett Johansson will go out with me.
Um, you've also got, like I said earlier, Njoku wants out. He's already penned his goodbye letter to the fans in Cleveland. And the Bengals want to re-sign Joe Flacco.
You know, there's some rumors about Burrow being traded, but I don't think that's going to happen. Like, Minnesota is supposed to be a suitor, but there's no way I think you trade Burrow. You
And
know?
you know what? Honestly, I mean, I know we talked a lot about the Raiders this show, but if I was the Raiders, I would actually consider going and getting Flacco as my backup and letting him work with Mendoza, because I think they have some similarities in their game, and Flacco is a real professional, and
Oh, yeah.
I think he'd be a good mentor, you know, in addition to Clint Kubiak, and he's not going to break the bank, dude. You're not looking at 20 million a year for Flacco, dude.
It's funny because
Uh-huh.
Flacco, the dude who was on the couch just a couple years ago, is like, I'm going to retire. Now you're like, what, 4 years later, and looks like he's going to get another contract. The dude just, you know, who he reminds me of Dalton. Dalton can't retire either. Dalton was going to retire, and he's still in the league. Some of these guys go to retire, and the league's like, no, you're going to stick around for like another half dozen years. It's like that's unreal, man. Like Flacco was legit retired on the couch. And then Cleveland says, hey, you want to come back for a couple games and maybe help us in the playoffs? And 4 years later, now he's a free agent, going to get another contract. If you'd have told Joe Flacco 5 years ago that they no one's going to let him retire, they're going to keep throwing money at him, and he was still going to play at the level he's playing at, he'd probably been like, I mean, I know drugs can be fun, but really that fun?
Mm.
Yeah, and you know, look at look at Rocket. He's still going.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of funny, man. Like Flacco, he makes sense for the Raiders too as a backup. I do not disagree. I just don't think. I think I can see why Cincinnati wants to keep him though.
Mhm.
I mean, Burrow, has he ever played a season complete?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, fucking the reason why he keeps getting injured is that offensive line. Fucking Bengals refuse to put an offensive line around him, and you just continue to watch him get punished after every throw. And Burrow's a gamer; he'll take those hits and still make the throw.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's just, man. Like, I don't know how the light bulb doesn't click in the Bengals' head. Put protection around
I
Burrow.
put the chances of Burrow getting traded by way far behind Max
Oh, yeah.
Crosby getting traded. I think
Yeah.
Max Crosby is more likely to get traded than Burrow. And that's
Mhm.
something we can talk about tomorrow because we're out of time for this Tuesday. It's nice that we got to talk about the Raiders all day. Not the NFC.
Raiders.
Raiders.
There's hope in Las
all right,
Vegas
that's-
finally, dude. And Max Crosby,
mean-
you are a Jet.
Yeah. Jesus.
That's
Keep
no, I
your
mean, like
eyes
if I'm
out.
trading him, he's going to the Jets, bro. Like, fuck it. You want to go somewhere else? You're going to the Jets. They got two
So,
first rounders this year. We'll take your number 2 and your number 16 overall. Enjoy your career, Max.
there we go. On that bad take, we'll send it to JB, who's up next. See you guys.